All right. Hello, health heads. Welcome and thank you for checking in to this dose of the Healthcare Uprising. I'm your producer in the back, Jeremy Carr, here with your host in the front row, Heather Pierce. So, why don't you tell them what we're going to be talking about today, Heather?
We've got our first person that came back a second time on our show. So
Not counting roundtable.
Not counting roundtables. She was Jessica Tracy, who is the head of growth and partnerships at Enthea.
Oh, wait, not true.
What?
Anya came back.
Oh, yeah, but in a different capacity.
Sure.
I don't know. This is different.
And it was a bonus episode.
So Jessica Tracy, head of growth and partnerships at Enthea, she is coming back to speak with us about her Jungian coaching and integrative or psychedelic integration around Jungian coaching and all things kind of under that category. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, this is a very deep conversation that, maybe we should just jump in. So without further ado, here's our conversation with Jessica Tracy from Enthea and beyond.
Hi, and welcome to the Healthcare Uprising podcast. Today we have Jessica Tracy, Jungian coach and also return guest from episode 1. Welcome to the show. Welcome back. We're so happy to have you here.
I'm thrilled to be back. I'm honored to be back a second time, and I'm super excited about talking all things Jung and the unconscious today.
Yeah. So, and Jessica, for anyone listening, she's the head of growth and partnerships with Enthea, who is in the mental health space around bringing together networks of ketamine providers, right? Ketamine clinics, which I'm sure you've even expanded. Shoot, we should probably bring you guys back just to talk about that. But you're back here to talk about your new world in the Jungian coaching and integrated psychedelic integration. So I have so many questions.
Yeah. So at Enthea, we'll definitely set up some time. We're now helping employers to cover ketamine-assisted therapy, psilocybin therapy in states where it's legal, and then
Psilocybin.
do mental health treatments as well. So we'll definitely have to touch on that at another time. And then, yes, with the Jungian work that I do, I'm doing everything from doing one-on-one sessions with individuals to go into some Jungian concepts and some kind of modalities there, as well as doing group workshops, team workshops, and then also applying Jungian modalities to psychedelic integration. So yeah, I'm excited to talk to you about all of that.
Wow.
So many
I'm
things.
excited to hear about that bit.
Yeah.
Knowing what I know of those two things separately.
Yeah. Well, and I think probably a lot of people don't know what it is. I am one of the, I know ish. So let's start with the basics. What is all this? Who's Carl Jung? I think we should talk about the kind of, where it all began, and then what you do, what it all means. So let's just start there with the basics and make sure that everyone listening understands what it is.
Absolutely, yes. So Carl Jung, he's a Swiss psychiatrist from the past. He actually studied under Freud, so there were a lot of concepts that we are aware of now that he kind of coined or came up with, or at least put some concepts around. So that would be the persona and the mask that we all wear. So this is kind of how we identify and how we show up in our everyday lives. This is kind of like our egoic or our conscious self. So how we've kind of adapted to portray ourselves in ways that we believe are socially acceptable. At least that's how things kind of start out. And then over time, you start to individuate and you start to really kind of take off those masks, shed that persona, and really come into your true self. And that's the concept of individuation, which is ultimately kind of the path of Jungian psychology and Jungian coaching, is really helping people to shed all of those the things that aren't them, the concepts that aren't them, those programs, the things that we've learned over time, the things we've accepted as ours that really weren't. And the whole concept is to shed all of that and really find out who you truly are underneath it all, and find ways to really express and live your life to become more aligned with your most authentic self. So With that, there's a lot of different kind of concepts that underlie that. There is part of that is knowing that we have masculine and feminine properties about us. So regardless of gender, we each have kind of these masculine qualities and we have these feminine qualities. And again, through what's socially acceptable and things that we're taught, oftentimes as women or as men, you may stuff down a lot of your feminine qualities, not being able to express or emote as much, perhaps. And actually, as women, sometimes we tend, at least in the society, to maybe dominate more in masculine qualities, to be able to work a full-time job, to be a mom, to be a caretaker, to be all the things that we need to be in this society, or think we need to be. We tend to overexpress in our masculine traits, and when we're not balanced, it does a lot of damage to our heart and our psyche. So there's this whole balancing aspect that has to happen, and that happens through a lot of different ways. Mirroring in relationships, maybe people have a lot of experiences in dreams too that bring a lot of the inequalities or misalignments that are within you. There's also the concept of synchronicity. So this is something that I know a lot of people experience, like that must be a coincidence. And it's not. It is truly something that is happening to kind of remind you that you're on the right path, or to give you like signs and signals, on moving forward and how you're going. So synchronicities are is a really beautiful concept that I think is, I think these signs and symbols that just show us that we're on the right direction and give us these little messages.
I love that too. Just like listening to you say that, makes me feel good.
Once you key into it, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. Yeah. And, there's the psyche that is always trying to communicate with us. And Jung was very adamant on the psyche is communicating us through symbols, through images, communicating with us very profoundly, actually, through dreams. So he did a ton of dream work. I do a ton of my own dream work as well. And it is just absolutely incredible to see and experience what comes through in dreams, and how they are guides for us in so many ways to direct us forward, to redirect us, and to help us process trauma, other emotions. So much there as well. He talked a lot about the conscious and the collective, the unconscious and the collective unconscious. So the unconscious is all of the things that kind of sit in this dark abyss, outside of our conscious awareness. And what sits in the unconscious is ultimately what, when we're not aware of it, it really drives kind of how we live in our conscious world and our conscious reality. So within the conscious hold, I mentioned it's our persona, the anima, the animus, our truest self is in there as well. And then also our shadow, which is a big component of the work that I do. And our shadow is our repressed fears, our suppressed emotions, things that maybe we were told we shouldn't be, or shouldn't do, or shouldn't say, or shouldn't act when we were younger. It's not socially acceptable. Or desires that maybe we have that say, oh no, that's taboo, you can't do that. Or even our creative potential, where we may be inspired by someone or say, wow, they're amazing for doing that, and that's in us too. But because we haven't acknowledged and accepted that that's something that could be for us, we also stuff that down. So all of this stuff is stuffed really deep down, and it can actually wreak a lot of havoc. And this is why shadow work is so important. Well, I'll talk more about that. Just wanted to give a you now. And then the collective unconscious is another kind of big term within Jung's work. And that is really just this concept of how we are all so deeply connected in more ways than we know and can even understand. There's just this very interconnected web that we are all intertwined in. And that's why, people say oh, well, I'm empathetic, or I'm so sensitive, I can feel, so many different things. Truly we can pick up on other people's senses, emotions. We feel the same things that other people are feeling to different degrees, depending on how sensitive you are. So truly we are connected very, very deeply. So all of the work, when we're seeing all of the challenges right now that's going on, the best thing you can do is do your inner work, because anytime you lift and shift some of your shadows, you're shifting the collective shadow as well. So just high level about like Jung and some of the concepts and
Wow.
those concepts what I pull into my work.
And his whole thing is all the modern neuroses of, you know, all our anxiety and depressions and, you know, issues like that that we seem to only see in the first world, in the developed world.
Mm.
He blames the shadow for that. Like he believes that you can use his therapy to work through and fix that
Oh,
by
yeah.
finding yourself in, because he has a whole thing of how society doesn't want you to individuate. It just wants you to be, you know, the good little automaton for the society. Uh,
100%.
Yeah.
and his whole thing is we have to allow people to individuate properly to so that they can be mentally healthy,
Hmm.
because that's the only way to really be fully mentally healthy. You have to fully be yourself.
You got to come out of the shadows. And as
Yeah.
I'm like hearing
Come
you,
out of the shadow,
you got to
exactly.
come out of the shadows. And as I'm hearing you talk about this, now it makes so much more sense why psychedelics are a part of this, because that's exactly what psychedelics do, right? Like they take down those walls, they open your mind up. We've been covering this a lot on the show, which I love. And so this feels really familiar to me right now. I would even say, as much as even like the breathwork class that I've been doing, Jeremy, that he started doing, like that is like it's meditative. It opens, it's like not there is no psychedelics involved, but it has some of the similar traits and kind of I don't know,
Your
effects.
body creates its own psychedelics if you do it.
Yeah. This is
Oh,
such
yeah.
good stuff.
That's a real thing.
Yeah, I absolutely
It's gonna
correlate
be so
Jung's
fun.
work with psychedelics. And I kind of, I really think that this process, at least in the way that I take people through this work, is psychedelic in nature. I'm
Hmm.
taking people into their unconscious world, but just as like one step at a time. So when you take psychedelics, you're going in there and you're jumping in head
It's
first,
happening.
fully immersed in it. And then you're coming back with all of this unconscious material that you then have to integrate and figure out what it means and what does it mean for you and how do you now integrate it into your everyday life. And that's why like the integration time is so extended and also why it's so incredibly important because you just went into the unconscious, got a bunch of stuff that was given to you through the psychedelic medicine and now have to do something with it. Whereas with
Yes.
a Jungian coaching or therapy session, you're going in there with a specific intention or a specific goal, or at least that's how I practice. And we're saying, okay, we have this issue, this dilemma, this intention, this goal. So now let's take you on this kind of spiral process into your unconscious, into your psyche, so that we can tap into the innate wisdom that sits within your unconscious. We can learn from you that knows best on what you need to do and how you need to work through it with the information that's sitting, waiting for you in your unconscious, and then bring that back out and then take that and then integrate that over the next week or two. So it's kind of like maybe dabbling with psychedelic medicine without the psychedelics, without the medicine itself, and doing it in the, kind of these baby steps. I shouldn't say baby steps because you're doing very big, deep work. So it's a little bit more than baby steps in each section, but you're not, jumping in the abyss all in
Hmm.
right
It's,
away.
it's a piece at a time. It's still a piece
Yeah.
at a time.
So just to kind of frame this a little bit, as a someone would come to you, right? And you're a Jungian coach, you provide this space to work with them virtually in person. I think you said workshops too, where you kind of take them through this process. Is that kind of generally speaking?
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay. And
I think of myself almost as like a guide in
okay.
journey of going into your unconscious. Because, when you're going
Yeah.
into your unconscious world, there's a lot of layers that you have to break through, a lot of
Hmm.
egoic layers that you have to break through. If you think of in terms of IFS, therapy, internal family systems, you have to break through, all of the protective layers that's saying, not touching this. Nope, not going to share that with you. Nope, not going to go here. Right. So
Hmm.
this process that I take people through is a way to um, very safely, very gently go deep within themselves so that we can engage with an aspect of themselves that wants to come through and needs to come through to help them on this very specific intention. Because I think when you work in that way, you're ultimately collaborating with deeper parts of yourself that
Hmm.
do want to help you and support you. Because if you think about dreams are always offering you information to help you in your conscious reality, in your everyday life. It's feeding you information. It's helping you process things. Your psyche wants to communicate with you and guide you. It just doesn't have obviously the same mechanisms that we do to communicate. So it does so in symbols and images. So a lot of my work is actually using symbols and images and having these kind of dialogues or engagements through, whether it's in an actual dialoguing process, or if it's a journaling exercises or an art exercise. It's a way to dialogue with the aspect of ourselves that is ready to come up, and they present themselves through symbols and images, whether it's something that I guide them to bring up or something that I show them, and their intuition says, yes, that's it. That's what's ready to communicate right now.
That's what Jung was talking about when he was talking about archetypes. That term gets mistranslated a lot because it really is just the image itself that is the archetype. But yeah, yeah. The symbology of things rolls into it as well. Yeah,
That's interesting.
You find that with the psychedelics as well. I never thought about the overlap with Jung's whole approach and philosophy and the whole therapeutic side of psychedelics and the way how they kind of overlay each other like that until this came up.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to me.
Also, thank you for saying the therapeutic side of psychedelics. I think that's a really important word to use to describe this
You can use them in a lot of ways.
because people don't, I think that maybe there's even still a little bit of a stigma around psychedelics, like it's some, old hippie drug from the 60s and people are, going using them for recreational purposes only, but
and they all have
have
their own applications,
Sure.
and you got to know what they're for and how to do them for what you want out of it. And
Yeah.
it's you got to be respectful and kind of ceremonial with them if you want to actually get the positive side of them.
Yeah, and we know multiple people. We just had Dr. Tiffany Ryan come on, who's talked about her
That's a great
experiences,
episode.
real like with some psychedelics and the integration. And I love how you talked about that too. And I don't know that everyone really understands what that means, right? And I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I want to make sure that we talk about like what is the meaning of integration after you've gone through either coaching sessions with you, whether that involves psychedelics or not, right? Like just that mindset. So maybe we can
What's
kind of,
the actual process
yeah,
work here?
exactly. Like what happens? Like, do you ask questions? Like if I was say, hey, Jessica, I want to come in and see you, like what would it be like?
So would this be for an integration session or just a coaching session?
Before just a coaching session. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Fresh off the bat, yeah. Like where does
Yeah.
it start?
yeah. So we always start like our first session is always just going into a bit of depth into like where you are in all different aspects of your life. I just like to get an understanding of how you approach things, how you perceive your life, where you're at in terms of energy and fulfillment and all the things. But then once we get into the actual work, what we do is someone will come to me with a dilemma, an issue, or an intention that they're trying to work through. Sometimes we'll work with dreams as well. So I'll talk a little bit more about that, but they'll come to me with that and I'll help them dig a bit deeper into it so that we can really understand like what's at the crux of this, like what are you really trying to sort out and why. Because we can start up here with a question, and if we do, that's great, but really a lot of the process is just getting deeper and deeper and deeper into like what's really going on here, what's really the challenge. And sometimes the question that we start with totally shifts and changes, and now we're something where maybe it was something around an action that they couldn't do, to no, we're actually at a belief system that you are carrying that is preventing you from that action. And that allows us to get in deeper pretty quickly so that we can have, I would say, more impactful transformation during the process. So that initial period of like really figuring out like what's the actual issue here is super important. Also understanding like how motivated and comfortable our people are with that shift and that change, because sometimes they want to change but they're not super ready. There's a lot of challenges with just change sometimes, so just understanding what that looks like is super helpful, and then setting intentions for where we need to be and really understanding what our goals are and what are the desired outcomes. What does that look like? What do we need to get there? And all of this, think of it, I there's so much correlation between the process of psychedelics too, because this is ultimately like doing a prep session before we go into the journey. And that prep session, like if we do this prep session well, which is always the intent, we can go so much further and so much deeper in the actual journey. So I have really taken a lot of the concepts and my learnings from, what I've learned through psychedelic facilitation into this Jungian work. So that's, I would say, kind of like the prep, if you will. And then once we understand, okay, here is the true issue on hand that we want to try to figure out, and here's our ultimate goal, and here's what it would feel like if we were there, and here's what we want to get out of this session too. And we set some pretty high goals. Like we are here and we want to be here just by the end of this hour. And that does really help, because then people were coming in with like this belief and this intent that we are doing work and we are making some change. And that's an agreement that I have with people, that we really are here to make some shifts and make some changes and get unstuck out of these things. Then from there, I tried to evaluate, what tools we need to use. I really love to use tools and resources because it makes things way more hands-on and tangible for people to do the work. Otherwise, we can get caught in like just talking, and just kind of venting, which can be helpful, but this isn't therapy. This really is like a coaching modality where we are using empowering tools to move people forward. So what I might say is, okay, based on what I heard from you, I may sense that this is a belief that you're carrying that may be preventing you or holding you back. Or perhaps there is a resource that might be helpful or beneficial for you, for us to shift out of this. Or perhaps there's some sort of like maybe identification that we're in right now, that we may need to explore further. And I say these things because I want them to tell me what feels right, because their intuition is truly the medicine, and that's what guides everything we do. I will never come and say, we're doing this and this is what we need to do and this is how we're going to move forward. I always listen, and then I give options, because they always know best. They always know better than me. I'm just using my own intuition and feeling to say, hey, here are some things that I think are beneficial. And they always know.
Whether or not they probably even recognized it going into it, they're going to be like, oh, wait, yes, I do. Right.
They're getting these little senses, just like, I think that way, and it's like, yes. And generally, like, we'll kind of be on the same page too. Like I generally, but it's always good to have that power lie in them, because again, that's where the shift happens, because when they're seeing that they're the ones that are making the choices and making the shifts, that's where we have like a real dynamic of transformation occurring. And I ask those questions because I have different tools. So I have some tools where it's very action oriented. Then I have other tools where we're really getting into an emotional belief that you may be holding on to, or we might be looking at archetypes and what archetypes are present here, or perhaps what archetypes could we lean into in order to help us move forward, or perhaps what is a shadow of the archetype that maybe is getting in the way here. Or sometimes we'll use cards that are, aligned with like death. What part of us do we need to let die in order to have a shift here? And what is that process of death and rebirth that's going to be comfortable with you and what you need right now? So there's lots of different tools that I'll use. So with that, and sometimes too, I'll also have them actually just come up with a symbol or an image themselves. So the tools that I just mentioned, they're different images or words or symbols, so that their psyche can communicate with them through those symbols that they're intuitively picking. Sometimes I may have, especially if someone's like super intuitive already and super connected, I might have them just say, okay, well, if we're feeling into this scenario, what do you see? And sometimes they'll get a pretty like vivid image, and we work with that and we run with that. And then once we have that, what we do is have them dialogue with it. And that might be a true dialogue where on one side they are asking the question, and then they come into that image, that symbol, whatever we're using, and they feel into it and they respond however they feel, whatever comes through. And
like they're themselves, literally like asking the question and then answering themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting because you can actually see people shift. So on one side, they are in, how they came into the session, how they speak, how they interact. And when they take a breath and they allow that symbol or that image to come over them, you can see them shift. Like they
Hmm.
speak a little different. Their energy is a little different. There's something that comes through that that has, you know, information that's part of them, but you can see the physical shift, and it's such a cool dynamic. So we go through this multiple times until it feels complete.
In
And
one session.
I
And
like how you physically turn to the right and then turn to the left, because that's actually part of it too, is the physical movement does
exactly.
flip a switch mentally as well.
Hmm.
And like you turn this way and you're you, then you turn around and you're the shadow.
Exactly.
Like
Very
that's a
much.
real thing. That's a part of the process of the actual physical movement of that as well.
Which I was
Exactly.
thinking too, like the symbols, right? Like the things like that that you're having that they're focusing on. Like I'm assuming they kind of live in the shadows, right? Like those symbols are kind of coming out of that unconsciousness.
Yeah, you're shining a light on them in the shadow, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
So sometimes it's through me presenting them, and there's something in them that just says that for I don't know why, but that, right? Or something will
yep.
just
Like
present
that
itself.
makes sense to me, right? Like that feels right. Okay, that
Yeah. And then
intuition, right?
as they're going through, then it's like, wow, then we understand, like, ah, that's why I picked it. Like, you know, sometimes like, an example,
Uh-huh.
someone picked the moon. And he was like, I don't know why I'm picking the moon, but the moon for whatever. It was the tiniest thing on this big picture. That there was like all this other stuff going on, and he picked the tiniest moon. But something that he was working on was his feminine side. There was a lot of aspects of his
Oh,
femininity that needed to come through, or
okay.
that were wounded that needed some healing. So
Hmm.
that came through as this is the part of me that needs some work right now, or wants to help you.
So
Yeah,
cool.
Because
and then
moon energy is feminine energy and his
Yeah.
moon was too small.
His
so
moon's
That's the
just too small.
symbology it went
on
there.
developing,
Yeah.
yeah.
He picked
And
the
then
small moon because his feminine energy was too small.
Yeah.
exactly. And then we work on how do we like bring it in and expand it. And then through that dialogue, we then close it out with insights. And what did you learn? And what
Uh-huh.
was the wisdom that came through? And then what's the homework? How do we now integrate this, and what changes or what do we need to do over the next
Uh-huh.
week or two to really have this shift to meet our goal? And
Is the
I
homework the integration just to like get our term kind
yeah.
of because we talked a little bit about that. Okay.
Kind of like the integration, we have the journey part of it, which is going in, and I take notes the whole time, because a lot of time people don't even remember what they said. You do kind of like go into a bit of an altered state, so you don't even remember sometimes what they say.
Hmm.
So I write it all down so they can read it after. And then I'll just close by just saying, like, I act as a guide through the process. I'm
Mhm.
really not talking a lot. I am asking questions, or I'm maybe helping them on when to switch, or maybe throwing in
Like
some
prompts, kind of.
things.
Yeah.
Exactly. With the insights again, I allow them to come to their own, and I always will offer, like, hey, can I offer something that I saw or picked up
Hmm.
on? Sometimes that is helpful to be
Hmm.
witnessed and to understand how you were witnessed and what came up, to bring some awareness to some things. But it truly is like a very, very just like guided process for them to go deep into themselves.
Wow. I mean, that
This
is
is without the psychedelics still,
right.
right?
That's not even with psychedelics, but that is doing
That
work.
those sounds like a psychedelic trip right there.
Well,
Yes.
and you remember it isn't, it is the, this is not your mother's mental health
It
therapy session. This is like, you know, it
honestly
is
though, it
different.
well the thing I like about Jung is he's the guy that turned therapy toward the patient learning how to fix themselves.
Hmm.
Freud was all about you have to have the doctor fix you. Jung, well, he ended up disagreeing with Freud about a lot of things, but that was the real change, and that's the real difference between the Freudian and Jungian approaches. Is Jung wants to give you the ability to fix yourself,
Hmm.
whereas Freud says the doctor has the tools to fix you, but you need the doctor to fix you.
Yeah.
Jung says you can fix yourself.
This is like a thing I keep hearing. Maybe it's because of all the shows we've been doing lately on this around this topic. It's like you just need a guide. So in your in this situation here, that's you,
Mhm.
Jessica. But like, what's typical like number of sessions with people? Do they come back for multiple sessions? Like, how does this work? Because this is very different than traditional mental health
This is
therapy.
this is old world shaman stuff, honestly. Jung mainstreamed shamanism.
Yeah.
He built his whole thing off alchemy,
Mhm.
which was Europe, medieval Europe's version of shamanism.
He asked friends if you didn't figure it out yet. Jeremy's really into this.
Sorry, everybody. I'm going to monologue a bit much on this one. I think
No, he's like really
I
passionate
love
about this, and I think it's cool.
it's one of my favorite topics.
But like, how does that work out usually with clients for you, Jessica? Or and I know you do workshops too, so that isn't even kind of a different format for people. But
Yeah, it depends. There's some people where, they come with very specific goals and a
Mhm.
very specific thing that they're trying to break through and work through. And in that instance, I may say, how about maybe 8 sessions, 6 sessions, and
Okay.
it is very targeted and very focused.
Hmm.
Sometimes there's a week in between, sometimes there's 2 weeks in between, sometimes two
Okay.
weeks is necessary because like when you step into the unconscious, it is opening stuff up. And
Hmm.
after our session, more is going to come through. So you are going to get more coming through, more downloads. So you may need a bit more time. Sometimes doing it every week might be a lot. So it just depends. But it's sometimes if there's a very targeted specific thing that we're working on, then we may set a package of this amount of sessions. We work through it, and then we say, okay, either we're good, and there's and for now at least, unless something else comes up. And otherwise, I have people that we are working on a variety of different things over the course of a year or two. But I think there are plenty of situations where people are completing their goals and their outcomes, and in which case they don't need me anymore. And that is the goal. The goal is for them
Hmm.
to not need me anymore, and for them to be able to take some of these things and be able to like apply it in their own everyday life. But that said, challenges come up, and we have so much stuff that is inside of us, our own ancestral stuff, family stuff that's always coming up.
Hmm.
So I would say that sometimes it's a kind of short-term deal, and then sometimes it is stuff that we just continue to kind of peel back the onion and work on more and more and more.
Yeah.
This actually ties a lot back in with episode 41 with Carissa Cano,
Yeah, I've been
with
thinking about her so much.
the inner child work
Yeah, the
and
Mhm.
ancestral
the
trauma and the
ancestral
Oh,
trauma.
interconnectedness that we have with people, like
I
you were talking about earlier.
I sense a round table forming.
oh,
Yes.
yes, yes, yes.
Oh, oh, it's
We
happening.
Yeah, because I would love Jessica and Carissa to I would love to put them into a conversation together. I
Yeah.
really would.
And
that would
maybe
be
even Catherine too.
Yeah. Oh, true. Yeah.
She's in,
She's integrating energy work
and,
with
and
psychotherapy,
Dr. Tiffany
like
Ryan. Oh my
Reiki.
gosh, this is all of a sudden a big
a
panel. What are we
conference,
doing?
a
Dr.
whole day
Tiffany.
workshop.
Yeah.
Wow, there's our next roundtable. We need to put that together quick.
A live event sponsored by Healthcare
Every
Uprising.
time Jessica comes on, it leads to a roundtable.
I know. It's so great though. This
It's
is,
funny that you said that because I actually just
mm.
did a women's retreat 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
And at the women's retreat, we had a woman that was focused on inner child healing, and she had a very specific program or technique that she developed around inner child healing. So we started
mm,
with her work, and that brought up a lot of people's stuff, their childhood wounds and stuff that was like really stuff deep down inside. And then the next day, we moved into my shadow work, and people were just saying they were like,
mm.
it was just the
It's
depth that
very,
they
very
were able
similar.
to get into, and
Yeah.
amount of stuff that they were able to release. And like to some extent, like people were having physical releases within their body, where stuff that was like lodged in, and we
Wow.
talk about how emotions work, they
Hmm.
quite literally get lodged into different parts of your body if you don't work on them. I have a really profound experience that I can share about myself, and then I can talk about from the concept of like Chinese medicine, how they believe that these emotions get stuck into your body. So we actually had one individual where there was a physical release of energy that moved
Wow.
from one place into another, and then she got some acupuncture, moves it through. So yeah, that it is very profound when we combine this together, this work together.
You know, the more we get into this, even the more like I get involved in this kind of work, like personally, right? Like I mentioned the breath work, other things. Like, why isn't everybody getting access to this? Everyone should be doing this to some degree because they just should, because there's so much value. There's so much that people get out of it. It's like, I want the entire world to know that all of this is out there waiting for them.
The problem there is it goes back to what I said earlier about how society or the state doesn't want us to properly individuate because it doesn't make us good automatons for the state.
Right. Oh
They
gosh.
don't want us all to get this therapy because we would all properly individuate and start thinking for
And
ourselves.
we'd all be so much stronger and healthier of mind, body, and soul.
We literally need a societal shift
Hmm.
in order for this to become a truly commonplace practice.
Jessica, do you see a difference there? I mean, both in what you're doing kind of individually with the coaching and the psychedelic integration, but also like professionally over the last year. I wonder sometimes if am I just in my own little bubble that I'm like, I think it is because I see it changing. But do you
Mm.
do you
Do
see a
I think
mindset shift there?
it's changing? Yeah, I think that more and more people are recognizing that like what we're doing today and the whole system that we have is entirely broken. Like we can't just be like,
Right.
here's a pill and you can numb that, or here's a pill and that's going to
Yeah.
solve everything. Like truly, like there are some things obviously that Western medicine is absolutely incredible for, and even with some mental health
Yes.
stuff, right? But we have to be doing our inner healing and our inner work. And
Hmm.
I love, and I've, really been thinking a lot about how to bring these concepts into very traditional places. I'm doing some work. I'm working on a collaboration with this really incredible company that's doing some amazing work for sales professionals. And that's my background. And I know very much how sales can really mess with you mentally. And you get into it because you have a lot of, oftentimes there's challenges with external validation, with perfectionism, with never feeling good enough, with worth and with value. And you're just continuously trying to prove yourself through sales and being successful in sales. And it's a total like mind F, for lack of a better term. And I had been wanting to pull this work in with sales professionals. So I met this great company that is doing just that. So I'm going to be incorporating some of this Jungian work for them. And I'm speaking actually, or not speaking, I'm leading 3 workshops in a few weeks at Westchester University, where I'm actually going to be teaching the students how to do shadow work. And I'm going to be taking them through the process of shadow work because one of the things that we recognize too with even younger professionals and younger individuals, they don't know how to process emotions and really challenging emotions. It's just distract, get on the phone and don't deal with it, shut down and try to take your mind off of it. So I have this really incredible woman there that just understands completely like the concepts here, that we're really trying to get people to heal from within, and to put the power back in them and to empower themselves through this work, and teaching them some really simple techniques that they can take with them, so that I'm guiding them through on like one very specific challenge and issue, but then that's something they can take with them so that anytime they have a challenge in life, they can apply it.
Hmm.
So, I've been thinking really hard in what ways can I bring this work into the corporate world, working with teams, because it absolutely applies. I mean, if you think about how many challenges come up with, your inner challenges come up and present themselves with your profession, perhaps
Hmm.
it's not good enough or whatever it might be, it's always an opportunity to do inner work. And we can't just say like, oh, here's so many coaching programs out there, while good, they're all based on like framework and technique and just technical stuff. And truly, like, we need to help people in here. Like if we
Yeah.
can help people in here and have some clarity, have some like build some trust, and really like lead from their heart and lead from who they truly are,
Mhm.
like the transformation that they will have from a professional level, and also how much they can contribute in a healthy way to a company will just be like profound. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I think I got a little off topic from your question, but yes, I do think people are starting to recognize this,
Yeah.
and they're recognizing that we just can't keep doing things the same way that we're doing.
Yep.
And like this whole, I don't know if you want to call it spiritual work, but you are working on yourself spiritually. We are a spirit in a body, and if
Hmm.
our spirit is dying because we're not fulfilled with how we're living our life, nothing is going to work. We have to help heal ourselves and come in alignment with who we truly are if we want to heal. And if you're not healing, your psycho-emotional things that you're dealing with, it is going to show up as disease, as pain in your body. I know, for example, I was suppressing some stuff, and I know better, but I was suppressing some stuff, and
We
and
all are.
Human, we're all
right,
human.
We all are suppressing
yeah,
something, right? I mean, I could name
right.
off a few things right now.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, in the moment, it's hard to work through until you really sit down and say, all right, I got to deal with this. And it was showing up as extreme pain in my right shoulder and neck. And if you look at this area, your right shoulder and your neck, it's connected to your liver. And when you
Oh,
suppress anger and
did not know
frustration,
that.
it gets stored in the liver. So if you're not
Mm,
working on, if you're not suppressing, your liver gets impacted, and that
mm,
ultimately shows up physically as a physical symptom in your body through
mm.
that area. So I was, suppressing frustration and anger, and it was showing up physically there. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm not sleeping right, my pillow, yada yada. It wasn't that. It was something that I needed to work through and get out.
Hmm.
There's so
And
many
so then
different.
you fixed it through that. Like the pain went away once you
Well,
started.
I did get
Mm,
acupuncture to help with the physical relief, but when I went there, we barely even did any physical stuff on the actual muscle. We did a little
uh,
cupping, but everything was on the channels that were going to help me emotionally to
uh,
be able to move some of the stagnation of energy that I had, as well as for me to be able to have some, let's say, more energy to have the conversations that I needed to have,
mm,
more willpower to have the conversations that I needed to have.
okay.
As my other co-host Maz would say, it's psyche affecting matter and matter affecting psyche. There
Mhm,
is that cycle where your body and your mind are very much connected, and they
mhm,
Yeah.
affect each other in big ways. Pain shuts down the mind.
Mhm.
Physical pain can shut down the mind, and mental pain can shut down the body.
mhm.
Just the
Yeah.
same.
I mean, if you have unresolved emotions and traumas, it will quite literally cause disease and
Yeah.
chronic conditions
Like a
and
lot
keep.
of cancer comes from repressed
Mhm.
emotion and,
Yeah.
and overt stress and things like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But can I we, we
Mhm.
we've gone through the whole therapy thing. I don't know if I missed something. Where do the actual psychedelics come in?
I had the same question. Yeah,
Because
let's
we've
go
gone
there.
through the journey of your actual therapy process. When do you, I mean, are there actual psychedelics at work here, or is it just kind of a psychedelic thing all by itself?
Yeah, so when I work with people in terms of psychedelics, so there are, retreats in other countries that I would do with, or in, states where it's legal and countries where
Mhm,
it's legal that I would do to support individuals in working with plant medicine. But I do work with people in psychedelic integration so that after they've had, actually before and after they've had a psychedelic experience, I would support them in preparation, because that journey that we do in terms of preparation almost helps them drop into their unconscious, start the journey before they even have the medicine. So they're actually
mm,
Yeah.
starting that engagement with their unconscious selves, with the things that need to come up and be worked through. It
mhm,
starts prior to the actual experience when we do it with the Jungian framework. And then with the integration, what happens a lot of times is that you go into the journey and you have these incredible visuals, maybe you have these really intense like physical experiences, maybe somebody came through and you're like, I don't know who that was or why they came through or they said something. So there's just this content that comes through that sometimes we don't fully understand.
mm.
So
Just don't know
what
what
I
to do with it. Kind of.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and again,
Unidentified archetypes.
yes, very much. Yeah. So um, when you work in traditional integration, it is a lot of just like talking through it, understanding it, but when I take them into that framework from like a Jungian perspective, I take them through a very similar dynamic. So we'll bring up what it was they saw, they felt, and we'll do some sort of exercise around it, whether it's that dialoguing process, whether it's a journaling framework where there's just like kind of automatic writing with a bunch of different prompts to get deeper and deeper and deeper into like what it had to offer to them, or whether it's doing some sort of art exercise. So visually representing what they saw and then digging into that and maybe having different components of the picture speak to each other or engage with each other. So there's lots of different techniques that I use within the journey, but it is, or within the integration, but it is a concept of taking what came through that they couldn't figure out what it meant or what it was trying to tell them, and then going through that kind of spiraling process, that spiral of going deeper and deeper and deeper to get insight from that symbolic thing that came through. So we're just getting insight from the symbolic image that presented itself, because it presented itself for a reason, and oftentimes there's more that it has to offer, and we just have to go through a bit of a guided process to uncover it, and it is done through the individual.
So let's say you have somebody that you're working with there. So you'll do kind of like how do I say this? They're committed to uh, doing something with psychedelics. Now, you don't have any part to do with that piece, but you kind of show it before for kind of preparing them for having that experience, and then you work with them after for the integration into their life and kind of like what it told them, what its meaning, what they're supposed to do with what they found, saw, felt, all those things. But
Exactly.
they
Yeah.
do it on their own.
Yeah, and if I was having like a retreat, then obviously then, at the
In
retreat,
that
I
case,
supporting them.
okay.
Otherwise, yes, they would be doing the medicine on their own, or perhaps there's also instances where maybe they already had a journey. Maybe the journey was a
Mm.
year ago and they still can't figure out what that that
Trying to kind of put it all together.
It can be
there's a
hard to
lot
process.
super
Gotcha.
challenging journeys, and they have seen some stuff that have been pretty challenging. They can't figure out why. Sometimes
Hmm.
like really dark stuff can come through too. Uh,
Hmm.
so it may not even be immediately after. It might be something that is still present, and they just haven't been able to really figure out or sort through yet.
Okay. That makes I keep thinking back to well, I'm thinking of my friend who just did an ayahuasca retreat up in Utah last week. I'm still trying to get her to come on the show. And then Dr. Tiffany Ryan, who's a friend of mine who
That was
just
just a couple episodes ago.
yeah, just recorded with us. It's not even published yet, but she has a guide, right, where she went and sat in a yurt and using some psychedelics. And so she had somebody who she was working with, kind of like all the way through and as part of that integration. But that's not always everyone's scenario, right? Like I could even see my friend who just got back from this ayahuasca retreat needing somebody like you potentially um weeks from now, heck, months from now, whenever, right? Because of what she experienced and went through
Mm-hmm.
during that time. Although I'm
Yeah.
sure that she had a lot of guidance during that week. That's like a pretty big, that's like a full retreat. I still haven't gotten the whole story from her yet, so I've got to ask her all the details. But so it can happen in a number of ways, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And look, once psychedelics is legal all over the country, then for sure we doing the whole the whole
Right?
Yeah, let's
obviously
say
limited.
when and not if on
Yeah,
that.
when.
When psychedelics are legal across the country.
Um, I want to make sure that we touch on a couple of things too. You had mentioned earlier about this person, I believe, who was in the workshop that had like the physical change, or not physical change, like the maybe the pain moved or something along those lines. Can like it sounds like it kind of happened to you too, to some degree, like where you're holding something in your shoulder or wherever part of your body. Can you talk about like what that was like and how that kind of worked out for that person?
Yeah, I'll share both stories because I think they're both so interesting. So I'll share hers, at a high level. So she had been doing some work around some inner child work and a challenging experience that she had, and ultimately, without going into all the details, she had lost a loved one at a young age, someone she was very, very close with, and really idolized and looked up to. And his passing was so traumatic for her. She was young and she didn't know how to process the emotion, and she didn't know how to process the experience, and the support system that was around her, the ways that they were processing it and helping her process it just wasn't, I think, extremely beneficial for her. So when that happens and we're not able to process something, that emotion gets stuffed into another level within your body. And if that level can't handle it, it gets stuffed deeper. And if that level can't handle it, it gets stuffed deeper. And sometimes it literally gets stored like in our bones and in our joints. They'll say, people that start to get really achy, there's a lot of stuff that they have not dealt with that, they need to move through. We see a lot of it with back pain. Um, so she had really tucked this experience away. And when we were doing some shadow work, and actually with this, we did some shadow work, and then I also did some Kundalini movement as well to help move some things out energetically. She had an experience where she was able to connect with the individual that passed, and get some insight from him, and he was able to share with her, like, you don't have to, you're holding on to my physical presence so tight, like you don't need to do that. I'm here with you. I'm like literally here with you all the time. You can let that go. And as she was able to process that experience, she felt something actually like shift in her body, and it was like this trauma or this emotion that she had tucked away was finally released, and then it had to move somewhere, so it actually like moved into her leg, and she felt it in her leg. um,
Wow.
so yeah, so then there's like some different movements and things that you can do after that, to help physically move it out of your body. She actually went and got acupuncture when she had gotten back from the retreat. But there's, lots of different ways you can move that energy through these experiences as well. So that was really
amazing,
really profound. Yeah. And just to be able to like have that, these dialogues with deeper parts of yourself, because it's sometimes it is deeper parts of yourself, and sometimes it is truly like ancestors that can kind of come through and engage with you. And I truly truly believe that, because some of these shadows that we carry, they're not just our shadows, there's also ancestral shadows that we carry. If you think about all the things that like are passed down through lineage, we have our own personal shadow that we pick up from our own personal life experiences. But think about how addiction and fear and anger and all of these different things go through generations, and you can literally see that track. That is an ancestral shadow, and it just keeps getting passed down and passed down until someone breaks it. So there's truly like ancestral shadow work that needs to be done to help people like release these things. Sometimes people will say like, this feels like beyond me, and it's because it is. So that's one experience. And then, the other physical experience I can share with from myself, just to kind of talk about how traumas like truly do get stored in the body, is I had a number of different traumatic experiences, like we all did, but some pretty tough ones that I've been doing a lot of work around, and having progress on them, and felt like I was moving through them, but still having some challenges with it. And I went to Peru earlier in March this year, and I trained in psychedelic assisted psychotherapy in 2021, and this was part of that continuing education. So I went through a graduate program to Peru to work with the shamans and learn from them. And while I was there was an acupuncturist there. And I on my third day of the medicine, well, actually, so I decided to get an acupuncture session. Never done acupuncture before, never really thought too much about it, didn't really know much about it. And that's about it. So I said, sure, I'll get it. Well, I just happened to be one of like the handful of people that got acupuncture while on San Pedro, the cactus psychedelic medicine.
Whoa.
So, yeah, yes. So
don't know a whole lot about that, but I'll have to do a little research.
What did that feel like?
It's an amazing medicine. Well, it totally redirected my whole life path. I'll tell you that much, and I'll explain why.
Might be another show.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
We'll bring you back a third time.
Yeah, there's definitely so much more there. So I went in there, and I told him what I was working through, and so he felt into whatever I was experiencing, and he's like, okay, there's a lot of fear that's stored in your body. He said there is fear stored in your kidneys, and there is a lot of like overactive mind activity from an overactive mind that's stored in your spleen. So he did the needles, and I was on, at that point, a lower dose of the medicine, and I felt a rush of energy just explode out of where he put the needle and rush up my leg. And I just had the most like profound experience of how acupuncture physically truly does work, and how energetically emotions and things truly do get stuck in certain energetic sections in our body that are connected to certain organs. And that is where those emotions get stored and stuck. Wow. Now, the third and last San Pedro session I was on a lot of medicine. So we went to the highest dose for me at that point, and I had my next acupuncture session. And the first three experiences with the medicine were like so beautiful. First two, I should say, were so beautiful, so light, it was so healing. Then this session was like, all right, time to do the work. There's some shadows coming through, and you have to go into it. You have to face it.
Yeah, the deeper you go, the darker the shadows get, man.
That's right.
That's real news.
That is true. And I didn't even know when it was coming up, when I was having my session, but I just walked out. We were supposed to break for lunch, and I saw him, and I was like, it's time, right? And he's like, it's time. So I told him what was coming up, and it was some deep, dark stuff. And he's like, okay. He's like, well, there's startle here stored here. So there was a startling, an event when I was startled because there was an attempted break-in when I was a kid, that's stored in your pericardium. And there's some other, experiences similar that I've had that was stored in your pericardium. And he said that there's another energy, fear-based energy that is very, very deep. You have really tucked this one away. So he used the needles in the certain places, and I just erupted in fear. My entire body started to shake. I started to shiver, cry, whatever you want to call it. hyperventilate. And you could say I basically had a panic attack for 30 minutes. But
Oh,
what
no.
that was doing was it was allowing me to have a very visceral, physical healing response, because that trauma was still so deeply stored in my organs that it needed to be released. Like, it's the only way for me to really truly heal, was that it had to be released from my energy centers and my organs. Now, would I have had that much of a visceral response if I was not on medicine? Probably not. I do believe the same release was happening. I just think that I had a really profound, unique opportunity to feel energetically and physically and viscerally what happens in the practice of acupuncture, and also to truly understand how trauma quite literally does get stored in the body. So did that.
Clearly.
And
Yeah.
it
That's
shifted so much stuff for me. And then,
that's true catharsis that you experienced right
oh
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the rest of the day I felt gross. And
Really?
I felt like, do I have PTSD from this? Like, I feel
Oh,
like
so much stuff just gets, oh, it's
trauma
going to release so much toxin into your system. Yeah.
that happened. Yeah. But over time, throughout the day, it ended up clearing. And then the next day I felt incredible. I was so light. I was like, I felt like a new woman. And the next day I signed up to go back to school for acupuncture,
Oh
because
my gosh, you're like, this is,
yeah.
I
So
need this in my life.
That's like a soul cleansing, you know, it's like how you do, you know, we do intestinal cleanses and
mhm.
things
Uh-huh.
like that. You know, this is how you cleanse your spirit. Like a
Yeah.
spirit
Really.
cleansing is what it
Yeah,
is.
because what I realized, like with this Jungian work, it's so powerful, right? It really is truly profound. And we are moving so much energetically out of the system. Like, it truly does work as an energetic movement of what's stuck
Mm.
inside the unconscious. But there are some things that that are so deep that we do need a deeper physical practice in order to move. Sometimes that's yoga, and sometimes that will do it. But I've decided that acupuncture is now the tool for me to incorporate into my Jungian work.
I
Some
mean, you had
I've
such a
been wanting to
response.
try that too. I
I've
think the
done
universe is talking to me right.
I've done acupuncture. I did it for actually for nerve pain that
Mm,
I was having in my left arm. I have spinal stenosis. I had this horrible flare up. So for me, it was more like a physical response of like a, an actual like diagnosed condition. But I mean, I loved it. So I can't say I experienced anything like what you had. But I was also not being treated for anything other than my actual nerve issue.
yeah.
So, but I mean, I'm still 100%. I'm a believer in the acupuncture all day long. That was I should do it more often. We've got a great place here in town. Actually, I think we're going to bring an acupuncturist on the show too. So,
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Well,
yeah. So now you're going down this path of acupuncture. Like, it's kind of cool. Like, you've got all of these new, I don't know, pathways to move into with all just all this healing and everything. It must feel, I don't know, life changing.
It just feels right. I could say it just
Hmm.
feels right. I think
Yeah.
when you do this inner work, what I find is that things start to present themselves that are aligned for you. And you just have to
Yeah.
them. When they show up, you just have to say yes, and you figure out how to make it all work. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, going back to
that's flow
school
state.
for, yeah, exactly. I'm 40 years old, and now I'm going back to school for my doctorates, and it's going to take me 4 years while I have my Jungian work and my work in the psychedelics consulting. But you make it work, and you figure out how to do it, and it's
Yeah.
all so connected. And the more that I learn through my school in Chinese medicine and acupuncture, it's directly aligned with how I practice my Jungian work and how I understand energy and organs, and how everything is so interconnected, and how psychedelic medicine does a lot of that healing and that work. So I find it to really just be like a continuing education of my ultimate mission, which is to help others be able to do their own inner work and go ultimately on this journey within themselves, this kind of process of self-exploration, in order to come into their fullest authenticity, the path of individuation. And that's also the practice of traditional Chinese medicine, is that the practitioner, their ultimate goal, depending on the books you read, will suggest that, like, your goal is to help people follow the heart's path. and
Mm-hmm.
connect their mind to their heart, where their heart is the emperor, their heart is leading, their mind is just helping to process the data, and their willpower is helping them to act on their heart. And that's the same concept of Jungian, and it's kind of the same concept of what you're trying to get out of psychedelics. So it's all the same, objectives and kind of concepts. It's just different tools because people need different things.
Mm-hmm.
Jungian work is super powerful. Psychedelics are super powerful. Acupuncture is super powerful, but depending on what people need and where they're at, and sometimes a combination of all three is what's going to be necessary for certain people. So for me, I'd like to have different tools in my toolkits, just because I know people come with a different set of challenges and complexities, and sometimes you need to use one, sometimes you need to use a combination.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even maybe their openness to certain things, right? Like might be
Yeah.
a little bit more inhibited at first, but then the more you kind of explore these spaces,
Mhm.
I feel like that's like me, like it's been kind of a slow crawl, right? But being open-minded to those things and figuring out like, okay, I can do that. That feels good to me, right? Like I'm open to these bigger things. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think about like people that I work with in person too, if we can bring some of this stuff up in the mind and really identify like these like deeply, deeply rooted things,
Hmm.
then we can know like, well, where in the body is that stored? And then when we can do some work with the acupuncture to actually have that physical release,
Hmm.
transformation just happens, I would say, so much more quickly.
Mm.
You have transformation with all of these, but when you start to combine some of these modalities, that's where I think you have some pretty significant shifts pretty quickly.
Wow.
And it's one of those processes where you slowly build up to this moment, and then there is that catharsis moment, and all of a sudden everything changes.
Mhm.
And then you go, okay, what's next? And you slowly build up to the next one, and you have that moment again. It's like these,
Mhm.
you got to build up to that moment where you go boom, and then all of a sudden, like when you got your catharsis moment, and you said the whole path of your life changed because of it.
Mhm.
That is the process of individuation. You have to be open to becoming yourself, even if yourself is someone other than who you thought it was.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like I feel like with all of these modalities, first it was psychedelics, and it was like, oh wow, okay, huge shift. And then I found Carl Jung's work, and his work was just so. I've been working with the Jungian psychiatrist now for over 3 years, and my work actually it's been longer now. It's probably been 4 years, and my work with her, and also reading all of his work is really what prompted me to get into this coaching work, and that was a huge shift. And then having this acupuncture was another huge shift, and
Mm.
I think it's about just like following your heart and listening to where this energy is pulling you, and allowing it to pull you. I had one mentor, and she's incredible, and she was like, Jessica, you might not want to, like, this might be a little confusing for people when you're talking about like all the different things that you're doing and how you're combining it. And I totally get that and totally understand that, but I think like from a vision perspective, like, I just, to me it makes so much sense,
Hmm.
so it all from my perspective, like in my big picture and where I see all this going, like it very much is aligned. So it's exciting to see it all
It
develop.
it keeps I keep thinking of the Ikigai, am I saying that right? Ikigai with the three
Yeah.
circles and you find you're kind of right in the middle and like that's you.
Yeah.
You found it.
Yes, yes.
And maybe still finding, right?
I'm sure there's more that's going to present itself. You're
Sure.
finding
That's how it
integrated in
usually
a way
works.
that's cohesive and makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hate to be a party pooper, but we are over an hour now officially.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think we're good to almost
We,
wrap up
we
here
can we
anyway.
can talk about the rest when we do the round table.
I think we're on a good note to close out. Jessica has found where she's supposed to be and continuing to explore that path. So thank you for bringing your expertise to
Can
our show.
can we bring her back when I've read a few more Young books?
Yes, I think yeah.
We could talk about this for hours. So
Oh, I
You're
could literally. I came in and like Heather doesn't tell me what we're talking about till I get here to set up. It's kind of part of our shtick. But I saw you coming back, and I'm like, so what are we actually talking about? And she said the phrase Jungian psychedelic integration, and I was like, oh my God, I can start talking about that right now. I don't even need a guest. I can talk all day about that myself.
Yep. Yep. It's
yeah,
good
it's
stuff.
about. Really
Well,
excited.
yeah, you're officially a big friend of the pod, with coming back now.
Actually, 3 times, because it was episode 1 plus the roundtable following at the end of the ketamine series.
Well, Sherry came
And
for the
Yeah, Sherry did the.
Oh, that's right. It was Sherry on the roundtable.
she did the
I forgot that
roundtable.
wasn't you. That's
So
right.
yeah, this is technically only your
So
second
this is
time,
your second. Okay.
but we've got some.
And Thea has been represented 3 times.
Correct. Yes. So now we're going to come back and have to do another. Yeah, we're going to do the roundtable. So keep an eye out for that.
What are our links for you for now?
Yeah, if somebody wanted to work with you, or where could they find you? Because I know you're doing workshops in the Philly area.
I like to put the links in the show notes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so there's a few different ways for if anyone's interested in the Enthea side, you can always reach out to us over there. It's jessicaenthea.com. I have my consulting work in psychedelics is thesagecollective.co. And then all of my Jungian work is jessicathejungian.coach. That's where my website is. You can also find me on LinkedIn and Instagram. Instagram is _ Jessica Tracy, TRACY _ and on LinkedIn. And yeah, I work with individuals on a one-on-one basis. I also do a lot of workshops. So we can go like very in depth and do like pretty intensive shadow work through a group workshop. I like to incorporate that into teamwork as well for corporations. Every corporation has their own shadow that they need to work through.
It's a great idea.
It's all of these concepts that apply to individuals that they all directly apply to corporations. They have their shadows, they have their archetypes, they have ones that they lean into more than the others. They have their persona, the mask that they wear, they have their kind of heart's mission that they need to be able to get to and identify. So I would love to work with some business owners that like really understand like that Jungian concept and like transform their business from the Jungian perspective with using those Jungian modalities. So yeah, lots of fun things that we can do there for sure.
Exciting.
I love our podcast so much.
Me too.
Statements like what she just said make me so happy.
That's so cool. Well,
because the government says companies are people, corporations are people.
They are. Yeah. They are.
So why wouldn't they have their own shadow and need their own shadow work?
Yeah.
It is 100% applicable. All of the individuation we do for ourselves, we can do individuation for a company. And if you think
any
about
organization, really, right? Any group of people as a collective trying to do one thing together, it's going to develop its own mentality, right?
And what if you led that way, where you're trying to like truly individuate from an authentic standpoint? How better would the world be if all companies tried to individuate from an authentic perspective?
I've been doing it on a personal basis for a long time. I'm pretty individuated.
The world would be a better place.
Yeah.
So, well, with that, thank you so much for coming on. Again, another fascinating, enlightening conversation. We could probably keep going, but we're just gonna have to bring you back.
No, we're already too long. Producer says stop.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on the Healthcare Uprising. Make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons before you go, and take a moment to think of a friend and hit that share button. You can find us on all the major audio platforms, and we've got video on YouTube and Patreon, patreon.com/healthcareuprising, if you want to watch us in action.
You can also find us on social media on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search Healthcare Uprising to find us. And if you're a new company or creator with a cool new product for the healthcare space, or if you're someone with a personal healthcare journey and you'd like to share it with us here at The Uprising, please email us at healthcareuprising@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you about coming on the show. That's all for this dose of Healthcare Uprising. Till the next time, keep looking for the good in the world, because sometimes it's where you least expect it.
This has been a Shut Up production.